To do that, we have with us, as we know, Hansika Nag, who is the school captain, Welham Girls Dehradun, and secretary of WWF India and COP student body. So, Hansika, if you could lead us from here.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be talking about environment sustainability just to begin. So the year 2020 has started on a very perilous note for the entire human civilization, as we know, and the COVID-19 pandemic has adversely affected us all. In order to contain the pandemic, various countries have gone for lockdowns that have affected economic activity. And as we all know, the situation today is hunger, unemployment, and inequality. With the closure of schools and colleges, children and young adults are obviously getting deprived of quality education, and human interaction, like at this conclave, has gone virtual. But have we spared a thought as to why? With the rising biodiversity loss and deforestation, to cater to ever-growing human population needs and profit-driven aspirations, the frequency of occurrence of such pandemics will increase. In fact, we as a species have not learned our lessons from previous epidemics such as Ebola, Zika virus, SARS, and the West Nile virus, all of which have actually originated from animals. Experts at the United Nations Environment Programme have reported that up to 75% of emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic and are linked to the destruction of ecosystems, loss of biodiversity, and overexploitation of species. And now evidence has pointed out that the COVID-19 too is zoonotic and has its origins in unusual human-animal contact. But again, have we given a thought as to why? As a species, mankind needs the environment rather than the other way around. And in fact, perhaps the environment would be better off without us humans. So is COVID-19 somewhat Mother Nature's warning to call out to all of us that either we make amends as a bleak alternative way, otherwise we stay out of our environment and remain virtual? To be very honest and personally speaking, I am extremely sick and tired of being virtual all the time and yearn to get back to school and real life interactions. Therefore, we must become sustainable. And even as I speak, the assault on environment and ecosystems continues unabated, showing no signs of deceleration with overexploitation of resources, CO2 emissions, and rate of biodiversity loss being higher than ever before. So what is the solution? Or is there a solution? Well, yes, there is sustainability. Sustainability and sustainable development that focuses on balancing the fine line between competing needs. Our need to move forward technologically and economically, and the needs to protect the environment in which we and other life forms live. But you all must be wondering, why am I speaking on sustainability at a conclave on educational well-being? Well, both the issues are somewhat interlinked. In 1992, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, at the first United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, education was recognized as an essential element to generate awareness and cultivate understanding on issues prevalent to our Earth. Now, despite recognizing education as a medium to create change, its implementation, more so in the context of Indian school education in particular, has been somewhat limited. So the moot question arises, how can and why should schools get to be educationally sustainable? How should they go about this? In September 2015, at the United Nations General Assembly, all member states adopted the 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. This would be a good starting point for the schools to refer to and benchmark their institutions via the SDGs. As we are looking towards fulfilling the ambitious, somewhat UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 and its plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity, it is clear that this cannot be met without acknowledging and leveraging the important connection between educational development and a sustainable learning environment. They are inexplicably linked to each other, and the ability to transform pivotal knowledge into conscious action so that students can become catalysts for the future evolution is extremely important. Since this elite gathering is of educationists and domain experts, I would rather speak on the steps that have been taken at my institution and my experiences that I have drawn across from a few of the best practices across schools, which I have been very fortunate to visit as part of student exchanges in both India and even abroad. And this would perhaps provide an opportunity to all the educationists listening to imbibe and follow some of these practices at their institutions. As a student, I can safely testify for the fact that unless a certain value is not repeatedly reinforced onto us, we tend to look at it very superficially and hence end up ignoring it. This means that including a few chapters in our curriculum about protecting the environment may be a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. And in order to become conscientious, the system should strive to instill in the minds of all of our students sustainability, somewhat akin to an unbreakable societal norm. And this is not possible right up till every student from the age of 3 all the way up to 18 is made to respect and, so as to say, fall in love with the environment. In the school setting, ecological sustainability can be taught through environmental education. And by introducing eco-friendly practices into daily school life, environmental consciousness should transcend the EVS period and be taught across subjects. Now, this can be done by pursuing a very comprehensive approach and incorporating environmental themes into various school subjects and activities. This will help create an environment where teachers and the faculty can cultivate a positive and progressive school culture. Teachers will have more opportunities to devise unique learning opportunities, and the students will benefit through increased participation and productivity and improved problem solving and critical thinking skills. Let me share some of the measures being followed at my school. I am a student at Welham Girls, a Dehradun-based residential school. Our school is a plastic-free zone. The campus is made of exposed brickwork, which is environmentally friendly and reduces the consumption and cost on periodic external maintenance and paint. The entire campus is a green oasis and is planted with lots of trees with their names, both the common and scientific names, displayed on tags on the tree itself. Some of our classes happen outdoors, as is the case with some of the school functions, our daily lineups in the shade of these very trees. The 5 houses at school are named after birds which actually reside in these trees and are found on campus. Bio-wastes like the leaves and flowers, etc., that are coming out from these trees are collected and composted at school itself, along with the biodegradable food waste from the school kitchens. Solar water heating, lighting, along with rainwater harvesting are practiced at school. And the grey water that is generated by school is processed through an STP, and the recycled water that is obtained is used for gardening within school. So the students have an eco squad as well, which collects waste paper from used notebooks and files at the end of every term. The waste paper is then recycled into handmade paper, which is further processed into value-added products like bags, bookmarks, wrapping sheets, diaries, all of which are sold on the school's Founders Day. But the point here is that by using all these creative methods, students not only enjoy their creativity, but subtly and unknowingly are getting connected to their environment and in turn becoming inherently environment conscious citizens. Welham has also taken part in various environmental conferences such as the Wildlife Week with the FRI and the MCOP, the Model Conference of Parties under WWF India, that I am also representing today. And different kinds of treks and campaigns under the auspices of the International Award of Young People and midterms, we build up resilience and simultaneously make everyone at school more aware of our environment. So I'd like to conclude by saying that environmental education and community engagement are both very collaborative activities that inspire all members of the school community. And this helps create a culture of continuous learning, growth, and development. And scientific studies conducted in America have shown that greening American schools has had a very positive and concrete benefits and actually reduced absenteeism in schools by 87%, improved the institution capacity to attract and retain faculty by 74%, and improved the community image of the institution by 72%. So isn't this incentive enough why schools should adopt these measures? I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hansika. That was wonderful. It is really nice to know that students or children like you are working towards the betterment of the society today. And we are hopeful that we will see a change soon with the awareness coming into the picture. So thank you so much for your views. It was a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Pleasure.